Okay, welcome everybody to day 4 of Education USA Virtual Week and Roadshow. My name is Charles Hornstra. I am the REAC, or the Regional Education Advising Coordinator, on behalf of Education USA here in the East Asia and Pacific region. Day 4 of the Education USA Virtual Week and Roadshow is going to be focusing on graduate professional programs. The session is going to be broadcasted via Zoom, but also Education USA center pages that have Education USA Facebook pages. It will also be broadcasted live on the Facebook platform. Students can enter questions if you're joining in via Zoom directly into the Q&A function at the bottom of your screen. However, if you're watching this broadcast via one of the Education USA Center Facebook pages, you can also simply comment on the live video and our staff will be able to transfer your questions over to our speakers. We will do our best to answer as many questions as we can as time allows, but remember that we have 3 sessions in total today, and we hope to get to everyone's questions by the end of day 4. At this time, I would like to welcome our Education USA advisor from Australia, who will be covering the first opening session that is going to provide a general overview of professional programs in the United States. At this time, I would like to welcome Samantha Jackson, who's based in Melbourne, and Samantha will be taking us through the presentation today. Samantha, over to you.
Thanks so much, Charles, and it's wonderful to be joining the EAP network through today's programming. I'm going to be with you for the next 27 minutes. We'll then move through to questions if we have time. But again, we're going to have obviously some great speakers following me today and tonight. Now, as Charlie said, we're going to talk about the graduate professional programs available to you at US colleges. So what are professional graduate programs? If you are looking at going to a US college, you may not even be aware of what they are as well, and that's okay. And after you obviously stay with us for the next 25 minutes, you'll have some more clarity on what they are. So as you probably already know, they require you to complete an undergraduate degree first, and then you would then obviously go on to graduate school, or what we're going to talk to tonight, it's the professional graduate school and those programs. So it is a research advanced study option, and it will require you first to do your bachelor's. And again, that pathway of the graduate schools is obviously, as I said, requiring you to do a bachelor's first. You can do that in your own country. You could have done that in the US, and those pathways all enable you to get to US colleges. So tick in regards to you've already done that, and thanks for joining me tonight. Now, I think a graduate professional program is a fantastic option in regards to US college. And we're going to talk about what some of those differences are. So the professional programs really do help you prepare for a career in that specific field. Now, the length of the program can span anywhere from 1 to 5 years. And again, you can put that down as one of your research items in regards to a program that you want to obviously get into. Later this afternoon will be followed by experts in the MBA and law programs. So they'll be able to specifically able to answer those questions as well. Now, these programs put a great deal of focus on the real world application. And with many professional programs, they often require an internship in that particular field of study as well. And it's that on-the-job training that obviously does boost that resume. Now, certain professions, degrees definitely require a professional studies program. I think if you're joining us tonight, you probably know that law is one of those. And we'll address some of those others that are less common in regards to those options for you. Now, in regards to the university research, this should be a fun process in regards to what you're looking for and where you want to go. And we're going to talk about how you can possibly choose that graduate professional program. So the choice deciding a program sometimes can be overwhelming. And I would say just take your time in regards to making those choices and those decisions. And I'm going to obviously talk a little bit about those differences And if you wanted to obviously study a very specific field, you would achieve a master's degree at a graduate institution. So that's not what a professional program is. And again, it's actually getting you skilled in regards to the professional world. And sometimes the difference seems so similar and it could be hard to explain. But again, we are going to have some more slides here that will help you through that process of deciding and moving forward. These are some examples of some professional degrees, and I think it's a great list just to quickly put up on the screen. And some of these you'll be very much aware of, and some you're possibly surprised. And these are the most common professional degrees that are offered at US colleges. Again, US colleges may not offer all of them, and that's why it's going to be important to research where you think your best fit is. Not only is that going to be due to finances, but actually where in the US you'd like to go. In regards to some of the most professional degrees, I thought it would be really helpful to take you through the next couple of slides and introduce you to those programs. Again, the ones on this screen may not surprise everyone, because most people know that the Doctor of Medicine, and if you wanted to be a lawyer in the US, you are required to go to professional schools and professional programs. And then there's some programs that you may not be aware of as well. So the Doctor of Pharmacy, so a lot of the degrees within the medical field all require professional studies in regards to specializing in those. Again, dental medicine as well, optometry, podiatry, and veterinary medicine. So they all require professional schools and professional programs. And if that's what you're interested in doing in your future, then applying for professional studies could be your perfect pathway to a US college. Again, this screen is probably a little bit more surprising. And if you haven't really started researching yet in regards to what you wanted to do for postgraduate, again, this might be the first introduction to go, these programs are through professional studies as well. So often it's the Doctor of Education, it's the Master of Health Administration, it's the MBA as well, and the Master of Public Administration as well. Now, many schools in the professional degree programs also have specific focuses that could be with architecture, engineering, and accounting. So that's why it's imperative that you do a fair bit of research. And again, don't be pressured about that. It will take time. But again, it could be that time that makes sure that you focus on exactly what you want to do and what you want to be when you head into your career paths. So why study in the USA? I think there is a whole lot of reasons why you're perhaps joining us tonight. Having an internationalization experience is fantastic. You could obviously bring that experience back to your countries. And again, there is a wide range of choices for you to choose from. So for instance, in Australia, where I'm from, there's only 41 universities that students can pick from. You may have a limited range from your country as well, but there are so many US colleges in the US, and ultimately you can find your best fit, whether that's a big institution or a small institution. Again, it can internationalize your CV. It's all about global networking in regards to your job, your occupation, and what you do with that. And one of the things that US colleges have that is quite an attraction is not only their community experience when you go to those campuses, but it's their huge alumni network as well that will connect you for years and years to come. Again, it's the practical experience. It's the opportunity to expand your horizons. And importantly, one of the things you need to also be addressing is obviously those funding opportunities. And we won't dive into that too deeply tonight through this intro session, but I will obviously encourage you to where you can head on your way as you continue to research your best fit. So determining your fit, again, don't obviously be overwhelmed through this process. Enjoy the process. And inevitably what will happen is if you start talking in your communities that you are thinking about going to a US college, inevitably you will start meeting more and more people that have done it. and they can also be a great source of information and advice. So in regards to determining your fit, there are factors to consider, and we are going to address some of those now. So it's about the reputation, the outside partnerships, the facilities that you think are important, the structure of the program, the faculty, the research emphasis, and the location. So there are quite a few elements of what you need to consider. It can feel overwhelming. We really encourage you to start creating a bit of a spreadsheet of what you think is going to be a good fit and continue adding to that spreadsheet. Remembering that some colleges are probably going to fall off your list and some you're going to continue to add to your list. So again, look at these kind of elements that are important to you and can focus on your programming and also what you want to achieve. Your academic profile is obviously going to be very important, and they're going to look at your grades and your test scores and your research and your work experience and your diversity factor. But often when we're going to talk about getting into professional studies, it can be very unrelated to your eventual degree. However, if you are going to go to a graduate school and do a master's program within those environments, they really do require you to have prerequisites. But that's where professional studies is a great opportunity in regards to any bachelor's degree can really get you to a pathway of professional studies. They are looking at so many other things in regards to your fit. Again, the timeline is important. Again, sometimes you need to look at where your academic calendar falls. If you, for instance, are doing your undergraduate degree in Australia, we run with the academic school year. So we run from February to November. If you're with us tonight, you're probably already aware that the academic calendar year in the America starts in the August and goes through to the following June or July. So you need to think about how that may interfere with your application process or what you need to do to meet those requirements in regards to providing the necessary requirements. So research those universities. We always encourage you to try and come up with a short list of programs that become your priority programs. And we encourage you to do maybe 4 to 6. But if you are joining us tonight and you are only applying to selective institutions that have a very slow a small admittance rate, then you probably need to increase your list. So it would be, I think, a real missed opportunity of not getting into a US college because you only had selective institutions on your list. Again, it is all very clear with the US colleges that you're applying to. They will clearly state it within their admission pages. But one of the advantages of an international student is that they have international offices on their campuses that specifically only have jobs to help you understand the process and to help you through the process. They can't claim to be the world's best institutions if they don't accept students from the world. So they are really looking at internationalizing their student enrollments. So if you are joining us tonight, be rest assured that the opportunity really exists for you to be going to a professional graduate studies program as well. We're going to move to the next slide. And we're going to talk about some of the elements of completing your application. Again, what are the differences? And I think it was really, I thought, helpful that I put this slide up here tonight, because what are the prerequisites and what are the differences if you obviously apply for a master's program at a graduate school or if you want to apply for a professional school? As I've said, most of the master's program at a graduate school, they will expect that you have a foundation of knowledge within the field that you're applying for. And often they will require you to do a whole lot of prerequisites and coursework, okay? But again, with professional schools, in regards to reviewing your major, you need to have an accredited bachelor's degree, but it can be completely unrelated from the professional studies program, because what they will do in the length of the program is obviously fill your knowledge base so that you can then, if you choose, practice as a doctor. And the length of that program will give you obviously the security and the knowledge of building that knowledge base for you to succeed in that career path. The application components, if you have engaged with Education USA before, I'm sure you're possibly familiar with many of these requirements. Of course, what's a real challenge with applying to US colleges is that the system is completely decentralized. So that means that every US college is going to have their own admissions requirements. They're going to have their own admissions dates. They're going to have their own requirements. So as I said, building that spreadsheet becomes really important because you can continue to add that information to your growing spreadsheet. So as you get closer to those deadlines, you can be clearly on top of that information. And again, it shouldn't surprise you. They're going to look at your bachelor's degree transcript. You may need to write a personal statement of why you want to go to their programs. They may require 2 to 3 recommendation letters. So be sure that when you're approaching people, they can obviously be a very good character witness for you and give you the best chance to be accepted in those programs as well. In regards to the standardized graduate, postgraduate tests, I'm sure through your research, you're perhaps familiar with these as well. But for professional studies, they often require a specific standardized test. You may be familiar with some of these, you may not. And again, that's okay. So again, if you wanted to be a dentist and you want to go to apply for dental school, you'll obviously need to do the first test listed, the dental admissions test. I think most people around the world have perhaps heard of the GMAT or the GRE, and the GMAT for graduate management test. The graduate record examination, the GRE, is often required for master's programs at schools. Again, if you wanted to go to law school, you'd be looking at the LSAT. For medical, you'd be looking at the MCAT and obviously the optometry admission test. Again, it's always important to check what those requirements are through the professional studies that you're applying to and what they require for you to meet the admission requirements. They are not always looking for the test score alone. The US has a holistic application process, so they're reviewing a whole lot of things about you, about why they think you'd be a good fit for their institution. And equally, you need to share with them why the institution would be a good fit for you as well. The personal statement really can set you apart. Don't look at the personal statement and think it's an unnecessary task. It really is a way for you to introduce yourself to the panel that are looking for people to be admitted. Use it to your advantage. Explain why you think you'd be a good fit and what you have to offer. And culturally, a lot of people struggle with this because you really need to start bragging about yourself in a way that comes across professionally. For instance, I am an Australian. I did my undergrad and master's in the US as well. And traditionally, Australians are not good about boasting about ourselves. And this is something culturally might be a challenge for you as well. And I would start writing about yourself now and building on that, because it is something that becomes something hard to do for many people. And again, often your parents are very biased and they could give you some good feedback on what you read, but you need to be showing your applications and information to people that you trust that could give you obviously a good insight on how you would be presented if they had never known you and they read it. And if they would want to meet you, then that's always a very good sign. So illustrate your motivations, describe your academic, fit. And if English is your second language and you are not as comfortable writing in English, then make sure that you source people that can help you. And that could definitely be your local Education USA office in your home country. The letters of recommendation. You know what, when you go and ask those people, you need to be very straight with them and say, are you going to write me a good reference? And people that are not comfortable to write about you will say, no, I will not. It's really important that you use that to your advantage and make sure that whoever you ask is both comfortable to write about you and is going to write you a positive reference. because in a lot of respects, you may not be able to see that reference written. So it's always okay to check with your reference writers that they're going to write something good for you as well. And again, give them some things to write about and include. If you're approaching some of your teachers in undergraduate programs, they may only know you about your strengths in that particular subject. They may not know what you're involved in outside of university. So it's really important to share those information with them, and perhaps inviting them for a cup of coffee or a cup of tea to actually talk about what some of those things could be included is always incredibly good advice that I have seen work really well for students that apply to US colleges. Funding your studies, it can be somewhat expensive going to US colleges. You need to look at that in your plan. But again, there could be ways to help you with that with those expenses. But again, map out what those costs are. They are going to be application costs. There is going to be the admissions exams. There's the visa and SEVIS fees. So there are quite a few fees that you need to work through. But again, reach out to your Education USA office. There may be opportunity funds or other ways that can support that initial cost in applying to US colleges. Now, the tuition and fees can vary significantly. If you go to a highly selective private school, fees can range anywhere from $25,000 to about $50,000 a year, and the living cost on top of that. So that is very expensive, but also many Americans find it hard to afford that too. And there's often some really good scholarships and really good merit-based, or they could be also some needs-based financial aid. And again, you'll need to put that into your research in regards to how those costs can be covered. And I'm sure if you join the following two sessions tonight, they'll be able to give you some really good strategy in how you can afford going to professional study programs. But the good news is there are some great research tools available for you that could help you with some of that cost. Again, we're not going to dive into a whole lot of those today. This is really just an introduction. Again, it could be personal and family funds, and they may want to contribute some for you. US universities have a lot of fellowships and scholarships and assistantships. And again, perhaps they can have your room and board covered as well. So again, look at those opportunities that are available in regards to things that are also going to help you in the fields that you study. There are external funding bodies as well. Make sure you exhaust all your in-country opportunities, any government scholarships that may be available as well. And there are also loans. Remembering that loans generally are something that you need to pay back. And again, that could be part of your financial planning as well. So there could be a bit of a funding strategy. You could always lower your cost of living in regards to where you choose to live on campuses. You could look at some colleges in your selection that have a lower tuition. So you could look at some great programs that are perhaps not private schools, they are state schools, and the costing may be lower as well. But again, it really becomes that research part of what you need to do often on your own, and it's a whole lot of solo work, but you could be incredibly rewarded as well when you exhaust all that university funding. If you are visiting US college websites and you can't actively find that and you have spent immense time trying to, it is always okay to reach out to the international admissions teams or even to reach out to those financial aid officers. Their jobs are there to help students like you, and they have no problem in answering questions in regards to if it's about applying to their US college. So the funding opportunities, again, like finding your best fit US college, you should start early and try and give yourself some enough time to research those options so you can actively then decide which is your best fit, and know that it is going to take time, and be flexible when choosing universities. I know I often meet people in Australia and they just want to go to the famous universities they've heard of. That often is only a list of 20 US colleges. As we've already mentioned, there are 3,500 colleges. Even if you look at 1,000 colleges doing professional studies program, if you look at applying to 20 out of the list of 1,000, it's 0.001% of that list. So really look at, those options for you. And as I said, reach out to your Education USA office that may be able to help you with in-country support as well. So ways we can help, Education USA is in 400 centers all over the world. Obviously, this program coming to you this week is with the East Asia Pacific region. There's 600 advisors, and our job in country is to specifically help our students and you get to US colleges. So thank you for joining us tonight. We're going to move into the question time. And if your dream is to study in the US college, you can make it a reality. It is possible. And please connect with us after you've continued participating in the events through Education Asia Pacific Virtual Week. I'm going to throw it back to Charlie and we're going to look at driving through some questions. Thanks, everyone, and it's a pleasure being with you tonight.
Samantha, thank you so much for the presentation and overview. Once again, just as a reminder, our next session will be focusing more on MBA, and then the session directly following will be focusing on LLM or law. So if you have specific questions in those fields, we do recommend still staying tuned so that you can learn more and we can deep dive into the specifics. Samantha, we do have two questions on hold for you. One of them is, are there any workshops for MBAs that could possibly help with essay preparation or CV writing? If I want more advice on this topic, what can I do?
I think that is a great question. And again, there are some great opportunities. So the question was in regards to MBA. What I would do is that I would look at the shortlist of where those US colleges you are going to apply to. And often they run information sessions live for students to tune in. They will clearly give you advice on what they're looking for, how to write it. And often you can be talking to current students about what their experience is. So I think that's the number one tip. I would go out and search in those avenues first. And possibly the EducationUSA office located in your own country also may run workshops as well to help you with that writing and be able to also be a subjective feedback and read it and give you some feedback as well. So that is how I would start.
Absolutely. And I think in addition to that, you can also, a quick Google search, if you type in Education USA Writing Workshop on YouTube, on some of the Education USA Center Facebook pages, it doesn't really matter where the webinar is being hosted from. As Samantha noted, we have Education USA offices all around the world. The content and the tips and the guidance is all the same. So feel free to find some recorded videos and also visit the Education USA EAP or East Asia Pacific YouTube channel, where we will host some recorded sessions and topics as well. So you can always check to see any new topics coming up and be able to brush up on your skills as you're looking for applying to US schools. Samantha, we only have time for one more question, but we're going to ask you, it's a question that came from one of the Facebook Live platforms. I'm planning to apply to US schools, but I'm nervous about letters of recommendation. My current courses are all online. Do you have any tips how I can better build a relationship with my professor? I believe this is in reference to some COVID challenges.
Yeah, look, please know that you're not the only one that is dealing with this situation. And also realize that the US colleges also are aware of the pivot that everyone's had to make because of COVID. So I think it is probably harder to build relationships with your university colleagues and professors when you're doing virtual learning. But I would also challenge you to say, look, my aspirations are to apply to a US college for professional studies. Can we do a Zoom meeting? Can we catch up for a virtual coffee? I would be really proactive And if you're a student that's going out of your way to do that kind of thing with your university staff, I think that will be a really good opportunity that college professors and tutors would be happy to reach out and help.
Exactly. Thank you, Samantha. And also just remember that even when classes are in person, students oftentimes will build a better relationship with their professor through office hours. Even though classes are happening virtually, there's also office hour options for students to connect with their professors as well. So if there are any office hours that you can possibly join and jump in on that one-on-one discussion or a small group discussion on a more personal level with your professor, that's a great option to look into. Samantha, that's all the time that we have for today. So we thank you for covering professional programs as a general overview. Once again, to everybody tuning in, either on Zoom or Facebook Live, we will be taking a short 10-minute break and then coming back for a different session that's going to be hosted by Education USA Team Myanmar. They will be moderating the session with John Hopkins Carey Business School. The session topic will be MBA in the USA. So at this time, we thank everybody for joining. Please don't hang up, just hang tight. We have a 10-minute break. You will see a slide up on the screen that says that the next session will be starting shortly. Thank you to all. And once again, thank you to Samantha.